Enlightened Wealth question number 4 is, are my dreams more real than my fears? The reason I told you earlier that most people don't get what they want because they don't find a way, they find an excuse. Well, most people's excuses have to do with fear. The reason that most people make an excuse is because of some fear that holds them back. And the word fears actually is what I call an acronym. Each one of the letters of the word fears represents one of the fears that holds people back. For instance, the F for fears, the first F stands for failure. Most people are afraid of failure. Or they're afraid of E, embarrassment. Or they're afraid of A, abandonment. Or they're afraid of R, rejection. Or they're afraid of S, success. One of these 5 fears has held you back. One of them has been the reason that you have slowed down, that you haven't made as kind of rapid a success as you want. So when I do my teaching, especially the 3-day event that we're going to have here coming up in a couple of months, when I come back, we're going to be spending some time talking about how you blow fears away, how you can literally become more confident and more focused, less afraid. If we were to take the fear out of your life, imagine 5 years ago, suppose 5 years ago, you had discovered the secret for how to eliminate all fear from your life. You were no longer afraid. You took action. You weren't afraid of what people thought of you. You just moved toward what you really wanted. What if we had dropped your fear 5 years ago? 5 years ago, so that would be in 2005. You had no more fear. And you lived from 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, now into 2010 with no fear. No fear of any kind of rejection or failure or whatever. What kind of financial success would you have earned in the last 5 years with no fear? How much more financially successful? You've been more successful in other areas as well. But let's talk about money. How much more money, more than likely, would you have earned in the last 5 years if you had dropped your fear? 10 times? Well, give me a number. I want you to write down a number on a piece of paper. How much more money you think you would have earned in the last 5 years without fear? Write down the number. How much do you think it would have been? Got it? You already written down a number? Now, it has to be a specific number. I don't want you to write millions. I want you to write a specific number of what you think more than likely, without fear, you would have earned in the previous 5 years. Got it? Yes? Okay, so somebody tell me what your... Well, everybody raise your hand. Everybody raise your right hand. Everybody raise your right hand. Everybody, right now. Everyone raise your right hand. Leave your hand up until I say the number that you wrote down. Okay? So how many of you wrote down, I'm going to say the word million would be million ringgit, okay? How many wrote down a number that was less than a million ringgit? If you did, you can lower your hand. 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, 50 million, 100 million, 200 million. Now we find out who the biggest loser is. Right over here. Well, what's your number now? 250 million. Right? In other words, she felt as if she had literally eliminated fear in her life, it would have been a dramatically different 5 years. Now, let's go out 5 years into the future. Let's suppose you don't eliminate your fear. What will the next 5 years be like? How much money will you lose if you don't change that right now? It's going to be a number very similar to the number you just wrote down, right? Now let's take those two numbers and let's add them together. The money from the past that you already lost, it's gone. You lost it. And the money from the future that you will lose because of fear. And add those two numbers together, and it's a very big number. And it's just a number that most of you really, when we focus in on our fears, we just realize that we think of fear as just a thought, but it's not just a thought. It's real money that gets really lost, okay? Now, in the book Cash and Flash, I talk about what I call the ka-ching thinking. And ka-ching thinking is realizing that every time you think a negative thought, every time you think a fearful thought, every time you think a doubtful thought, every time you think a worried thought, is a cost that gets deducted from your future bank account 5 years from today. Suppose it be 100 ringgit gets deducted from your future bank account because of a thought you think today. So if every time you thought a thought and 100 ringgit was deducted from your bank account in the future, it'd be kind of shocking, wouldn't it? What if you went to look at your financial documents, you were looking online and you hooked up to your bank account online, you could see that you have some money in your bank account that day, maybe you have 10,000 ringgit in there, and you're going to church, or you're going to work, and you go to work all day long, and you come back at the end of the day and you look at online to see how your bank account, have you earned any interest, has your money gone up at all, and you realize that it's down now to 100 ringgit. It's all your money is gone. Where did it go? 10,000 ringgit has disappeared. Where did it go? And you look at your bank account and you go, this is terrible! And then 100 ringgit gets deducted from your bank account immediately because you thought the word terrible. And you go, this is disgusting! I mean, who's stealing my money? Minus 100 ringgit. This is horrible! Minus 200. Terrible! Minus 300. You go, wait a second, and you begin to realize that your thinking is directly linked to your bank account. You say, well, what is it like if I think a positive thought? And ka-ching! Minus 200. If I were to think that there would be a positive reason for connecting my ka-ching! Minus 100. Well, this is wonderful. Ka-ching, zero. You mean if I would just think positive thoughts all the time, ka-ching, that my bank account would actually be more and more wealthy? And the answer is, well, it's not immediately linked to your current bank account, but it's linked to your future bank account. There's no doubt about that. The way you think directly links you to your future financial success. Directly. Now, if you really understood that and you really believed that, how many of you would think a negative thought? After a while, you'd go, I can't have the luxury of a negative thought. There's no way I can think that way. I have to, no matter what happens, even though it seems to be a disaster, I gotta look for the benefit in that problem. Ka-ching. I've got to start looking for positive things going on. What I want all of you to realize is that most of your fears are like that. When you think a fearful thought, when you're afraid of any reason whatsoever, it deducts money from your future bank account instantly. So when you show up in the future and there's no money there, and your bank vault is empty, and all these safety deposit boxes with all of the money and the jewels that are supposed to be there are looted. They're empty. You still have the same decision to make. You're standing in the middle of an empty bank vault, of a poverty that overwhelms you. You now have the decision. What am I going to think about this? Am I going to think a negative thought about it? And if you do, what happens?